All right. Good evening, my friends. So wonderful to see all of you. As always, it's Baruch Hashem. It's we can't even fit everyone around a single table. That's always great. As I like to say, the source material is just extra credit. It's there just to prove to you that I didn't make things up. But as I like to say, it's called the oral Torah. So if you want to reference it or you think I'm making things up, it's there as a receipt. But you're welcome to just listen. Let me pose to you the following scenario. This, to me, is perhaps one of the Rav Moshe Feitz has a lot of fascinating shuvos, but this one caught my attention early on. Let me ask you a question, my friends. We'll get a little bit of a yay or nay. You're right, like yay up, nay down. If I want to listen to a song, and let's just assume the lyrics and everything is, inherently kosher, but the singer or the musician is problematic, should I be abstaining from listening to the song that they composed? So should I not listen to it? So those who are let's say those who are against.
Is that somebody who's not going to Derek, or is it something like Wagner?
Yes, Wagner's what. Okay, so Wagner, everyone mentions Wagner, and I think the infamous Wagner group that we haven't heard about in the news for quite a while, which I guess is a good thing, was based on that. This is going to be a two-part one. So, but because I think Rabbi Wiener also mentioned it earlier, glance at page 7 for a moment. For those who want to see it inside, we're going to look at a tshuva from Rav Yehuda Herzl-Henkin. So he actually is dealing with the question of Christian music. And in the top left of page 7, I want you, those who haven't told about this yet, look at what I highlighted. It's the third line, Gimel Vav Samech Pei Ayin Lamed. Does anyone know what genre of music that is? Mayor's got it. What is it? Tell us. Very good. Musika Gospel. And in the next line, it's Yitzir Samashiach Shel Handel, or people tell me it's Handel. Is it Handel? Okay, Handel. I feel like Handel. You know what this reminds, right? So he had the Handel's Messiah. So I remember when I went to Israel and I was talking to an Israeli about the movie Aladdin. So they're like, Aladdin? Oh, Aladdin. I was like, So there's the Americanization of it. I guess we say Handel, but it was originally Handel. Anyway, right, and I remember also I would always in yeshiva speak, you say I'm handling in something, meaning you're discussing something. So I don't know if they're related at all or they just sound the same. But because he wrote Wagner, I couldn't ignore one of the references that's actually made it in the postscript here. I'm sure Wagner gets a shout out somewhere. I just haven't gotten to the end of it. All right, so now for the yay or nay. Do I care who produces the music, or can I just listen? So those who think that it doesn't matter, music's music, who cares who produces it? Let's get a thumbs up.
They still get copyright money.
Okay, we have a Mazuman. So Amy, Alan, Barry. So okay, very good. And then I presume everyone who's against, give me a thumbs down. See, a lot of people are abstaining. Okay, that's fair. This is something that one of my mentors.
I mean it seriously. Do they still get copyright money?
Very good. So this is an interesting question, right? Because are you giving them material benefit? But the question is, what is benefit? Is benefit giving money, or maybe giving prestige is also a form of benefit? I think I see a hand back there somewhere. There you are. Oh, okay. Yes. Hi, Carmen. Good to see you. So here's the interesting thing. Here's the scenario. I don't want to get distracted by this, so I'm just going to say it and then leave it until next session. Basically, if you look at the beginning of the tshuva, or you want to listen to the beginning of the tshuva, it's dated to 1959. But Davar Echad Shaya Ben Torah, it's about someone who was a nice, good, kosher Jew. Becheskas kashrus, this is an important halachic term. Every single one of us has a presupposition of being kosher Jews, meaning what we call a presumption of innocence. We presume that someone is good, outstanding, Torah-abiding, and is a decent individual as a default. But for many years, he had a cheskas kashrus, a presumption of being kosher. He would go and play all sorts of nice Jewish songs at Jewish weddings, and there'd be many B'nai Torah, many Torah observant Jews who would listen in. But now, ain't Shmuel so tova. He doesn't have the best reputation. Shemechanis, anyone want to guess what his terrible violation is? Shemechanis bachrim ubasulas yachan umazamer lefneihem. He plays at co-ed concerts. Now, so that it always comes back to that, Mayor. It always comes back to mixed dancing. Exactly. And everything comes back to that. I think I once saw a float chart or something, and then like somehow every single halakha question eventually came back to that in the middle. But anyway, there are those who theorize that, and again, I don't want to get off the rails on a crazy train here, but there are those who theorize that this tshuva is about Shlomo Carlebach. And the reason I have to note this, and I don't want to go too off the rails, is because this is 1959, before other questions came out later. So put that on the side for now. This, at least in 1959, the only question about whether it's Carlebach or whether it was somebody else, the only violation of the Torah we're dealing with here is that he not taught, Freudian slip over there, but that he presented his music in a co-ed forum with young boys and young girls where there was a risk for promiscuity. That's the only issue that we're looking at least at this time. And Ramosha writes, in my humble opinion, Aini Rob is a shum iser. I don't see any issue of playing his music. So reason number one, because this music was composed when he was still a kosher yid. When he was, I'm sorry, this is blocking your view. I know it's just better for my neck, for my posture. When he was still kosher. So this is interesting. Argument number one is that, well, maybe, and I know everyone has this question about listening to Pink Floyd, right? Before he, what was the gentleman's name? Thank you, Roger Waters. So before he became very the interesting thing is, I don't want to give an anti-Semite any more airtime or my money. I don't know if there's an isser actually to listen to an anti-Semite. Actually, what we might want to ask is, what would be the isser of listening to someone who doesn't observe the Torah? Who cares? Their Torah, their observance is their problem, and their music is separate from who they are. Oh, what did Neil Diamond do? Oh, you know who else was Bob Dylan? What's Bob Dylan's original name? Robert Zimmerman. Right, I think he had a stint at what do you call it? That place I should know where it is. Shar Yashiv, which is like a Kiruv Yeshiva in Far Rockaway. And then him and Rabbi Freifeld apparently didn't really get along or something, some misunderstanding. And but he's the great Bob Dylan. I nearly said the late great Bob Dylan, but I think he's still Sheyichli Yomim Tovim Aruchim. Okay. Oh, really? Wow. What's funny was I was speaking with my Rabbi J.J. Schachter on Friday, and we made up for a certain time. He got delayed, and so he calls me a little bit after the time we made up, and he's like, Shalom Aleichem, Moshe, it is the late Rabbi J.J. Schachter. I was like, that's a shalom. But I'm going to pocket that one in the future. It's a good one. If I'm ever late to a presentation, I'll say, it's the late Rabbi Moshe Kurtz. Anyway, hopefully we never need to do that. I need to switch the settings on my phone because people are coming in. I have to manage that. Okay. So can anyone think of another mitigating factor over here in this situation? Can I listen to this artist who, now, again, many of you might be questioning the premise altogether. Many of you might be saying, well, who cares if there's mixed seating at the, you know what they do in the frum world, in yeshivish world? In order to have a mixed audience, they call it family seating. So now it's mutter. This is like, if you ever have these Pesach programs that people go on, they always have the frum concerts. I never was attracted to those things, so they never really. To me, the only Jewish music I like is like the liturgical kind of music. I know all like the new pop stuff that they're doing. It's yeah. But you know what? This is, I don't know if I put it later in the sheet. Rav Asher Weiss actually says, look, we have to use the psukim of Tanakh in order to make music, because if not, they're all going to listen to, Bob Dylan or Fleetwood Mac, Rachmana litzlan. So that was always my problem when I was growing up in high school. So my Rebbeim were always berating all the rap music and all the pop music, and rightly so. And I said, but you don't listen to any of the good stuff, like you don't listen to any of the good classic. There's some issues in some songs of classic rock also, but they were completely unfamiliar with what the finer end of music had to offer. I think Rav Soloveitchik actually held that it was okay to listen to classical music during Sphere in the 3 weeks, and What?
He said jazz.
Jazz also? Okay, so I only saw it secondhand of Herschel Schechter's Tshuva. He just said classical, but I'm sure jazz as well. So he held it was on a higher madriga than other kinds of music, which I just thought was very snobby. But I mean, who am I saying?
It's not the kind of music we would dance.
And then it wasn't a party, it was.
Oh wait, one at a time. Okay, let's do counterclockwise. Well, all right, we'll make so.
No, Popovich also said that you're thinking you don't want to be listening to something you're going to be joyous about listening to music.
Right.
And he said classical and jazz, you're clearly not going to get up and start dancing.
Right. What if you have like I don't know the Battle Hymn of the Republic? Well, it's Christian also, so maybe it's the other issues we got to, right? I remember like you hear them play, it's like I don't know, you could jump up to that. It's kind of exciting. Anyway, Rabbi Wiener, yeah.
It's music and it's music. The music that we're talking about 800 years ago was like the Renaissance fair music where we played, danced, think about the car radio.
Oh, I thought it was Gregorian chant that everyone was listening to back then. Well, I guess that's where you were.
It's celebratory. Music meant celebration. Music
Yes.
sing and celebrating something. Not sitting in your house listening to Beethoven.
So Rav Shlichter makes an excellent point, which is, the Isser of during Sphira, arguably maybe the 3 weeks also, it wasn't that one day the rabbi said, thou shalt not listen. Well, we'll get to for allowed to listen to music at all nowadays, but assuming one's allowed to listen to music, they didn't say thou shalt not listen to music during Sphira in the 3 weeks. They opted going to weddings, and weddings were celebratory, and those were essentially live concerts. So then it got kind of expanded to any live performance and possibly to record it, but we'll talk about that. Marcia, you had a point?
I was gonna say, it's not a party.
Yeah, so that's the question, right? Is there something inherently problematic with music, or is it a party? So we will get to it, the debate in the Rishonim. We'll get to it momentarily. But first, let's finish the tshuva, my friends. So here's the interesting thing. Rav Moshe backs up his point. Number one, he says, look at two characters, Yochanan Kohen Gadol, and also, I think someone's at the door or something. If someone wants to, I don't know if any of our security people want to take a look at that. Also, there's Elisha ben Avuya, Rabbi Meir's Rabbi Acher. He gets his own Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, if we remember, Perek Daled, Mishnah Chav. No, I don't know Pirkei Avos by heart, but the citation's right over here. So Elisha ben Avuya gets cited in Pirkei Avos. They didn't cancel him. So why? Because he taught this before he became a heretic. So we preserve his Torah before he was a heretic. So there shouldn't be anything wrong with preserving this music of the musician as well. Moreover, what actually, people say, Rabbi, where does it say this in the Torah? Where does it say in the Torah that I cannot listen to the music of a heretic? So it doesn't say that exactly, but what it does say is that a heretic who writes his own Sefer Torah, does anyone know the halacha? Very good. It shall be burnt, incinerated, because a heretic wrote it. And remember, Sefer Torah is not just something that we can have AI make. It has to be written with kavana. And if the min is writing it not just with a lack of kavana, but with problematic intentions, it will invalidate the entire Sefer Torah. So what's the issue? Why do we have to burn the Sefer Torah? There should be no commemoration, no remembrance of the heretics nor their deeds. But let's say someone, before they became a heretic, they decided that they were going to go ahead and write a Sefer Torah when they were still learning in Kollel, when they're keeping the Taryag mitzvos. So then the Torah is not retroactively invalidated. If that's true, then we could extrapolate that to music or anything that someone produces. If I make it prior to violating the Torah and leaving the faith, it should not affect any Sefer Torah I wrote, and it certainly shouldn't affect any music that I composed either. That's the next argument that he makes. But then, here I thought was a really fascinating point. This is the last paragraph on page 1 for those following along. Look at the bold. I have a question, my friends. A Torah has kedusha, has sanctity, right? We can all agree on that. That was not a trick question. That's true. That's a statement. Okay, we're all in agreement. Good. We're on the same page. Does medicine have sanctity?
Does
my Advil have kedusha to it? No. Very good. So you're very Hasidish, I see. Okay, very good. So you're taking a more Hasidish approach, and then everything is Torah Mata, just like Rabbi Lamb's chapter over there. Very good, excellent. So we do Yishaya Leibovich together. We'll talk about that also. But here's the question: does music have kedusha? Ooh, little tricky, yeah. Shall? It has kedusha. So okay, good. So we're in the Torah or somewhere, like, where would I get the idea that music should be different than the Advil that I take? That it should have kedusha. Why would music be fundamentally different? Angels, Levian, very okay. But here's the thing. I think there's actually a debate, if I remember correctly. We were learning with Sukkah when we finished Sukkah back when I was in Connecticut. So if I remember correctly, in the last parak of Sukkah, there's a debate about whether the Shira is actually a fundamental part of the Avoda, or if it's just to kind of enhance the experience. I think there is actually debated to what degree it might have kedusha. But the angels, yeah.
You have music therapy. It was Saul would David would sing to Saul when he got it.
But here's the interesting thing, right? So the music therapy, so that way a Navi has to have nachas ruach, he has to be in a calm state of mind so he could accept prophecy. But I can ask you the following question. Is the music inherently holy, or is it what we call a hechsher mitzvah? It's a means toward achieving kedusha, which is the nevuah, the prophecy. For Moshe, his main point of the tshuva is not to address this fundamental, almost kind of like a theological question, if you will. But he inadvertently, and this is what I love, by the way, in the halachic literature, when the halachis inadvertently have to address theological questions. There'll be more major ones we'll deal with, but this is a more minor one. He says, I read it, but when it comes to secular matters, it doesn't make a difference who made Advil, who made Refuos, who made the machines. I don't care who made this table that we are using. I don't care who made my phone. I don't care who made, even like the shirt that I'm wearing. They don't have any inherent. Yarmulke doesn't either have kedusha. We'll get to the topic about not wearing yarmulkes at work. Ramosh had a tshuva about that. But what about music? So this is what he writes in the next bold section toward the end of page 1. So perhaps preserving the music, even if he wrote it after he became a rasha, after he became a wicked person, it's not going to be an issue to listen to his music, assuming the content, of course, is okay. Why? And I believe what he's saying here is because there's no inherent sanctity in the niggin, the tune. The words, and there's a debate whether it's permissible to do this altogether, to use words of Tanakh, Mamori Chazal for entertainment purposes. But let's just assume that's okay for a moment. The words have Kedusha because they're from Tanakh. The words have Kedusha because they're the words of our sages. That's what gives it its holiness. It wasn't that, Yaakov Shweki came along. I'm using an example of someone who's good, I think. Yaakov Shweki came along years later and decided to make a song about Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael was holy before Yaakov Shweki came along. So the niggin, the tune without the lyrics, he's arguing, is a secular thing. I still remember when I had a Sephardic chavrusa. So we went away for Shabbos, and we're having some conversation, and he never davened in Ashkenazic shul. I said, how was the experience? And he was like, and I said, what's wrong? He's like, it sounded like a church. It sounded like a church. That's funny. When I go to Sephardic meeting, I feel like I'm at a mosque. But I didn't say as a shtuck. It made me realize, like there's a cultural diffusion element, that a lot of the elements that we get from just the tunes are many times taken from the world that is around us, that we're influenced by that. In fact, we'll get to, I think in part 2 of this year, next week, God willing, that there was this chuvas called Krach Shel Romi, that there were these Roman chuvas. I think I don't claim to know Kol Torah Kula Baal Peh, I certainly don't, but the only time I can remember in a certain sugya that these Roman shuvas are always cited is in the tshuva of listening to Christian music. The Roman community, members of it, they would sit behind the paragod, they would go behind the partition in the churches, they would listen to the techniques that they were using, so then they could adapt it for their synagogue services in Rome. And it's a huge debate whether that's okay, but it gets cited in the literature there. Which is like a Christmas carol, you're saying?
Yeah, it is.
I know. It's always like, it sounds so like nice. It sounds so nice, like holiday-like. I'm like, but you know what happens? This is always how the story goes. There's like this story I remember hearing about a yid that he one time went to the bar and he heard a great tune. Then he put him up for Kabbalah Shabbos, and he used that tune for Lichadodi because anyone wants to put anything Lichadodi these days. And then he saw that his Rebbe was very excited about the tune. He was really into it. And then that night it was like the telltale heart. He's like tossing and turning back in his bed, and like his conscience is eating at him. How can I make the Rebbe get Hana from this Goyish Niggin? And then eventually, he's like runs over in the middle of the night, and he comes to the Rebbe. The Rebbe, there was a Goyish Niggin. And the Rebbe says, no, such a Niggin must have come from a Yid originally.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe. I mean, look, Escher, look, Simon and Garfunkel, very, very good. Only they, I think, yeah. Yeah, so these are but here's the thing. So the niggin arguably doesn't have any inherent kedusha. Now, of course, there could be instrumental reasons, maybe it puts you in a certain state of mind, and arguably that there's something to that. Somebody I think once, for Kabbalah Shabbos wanted to use like a Lady Gaga tune or something, some pop tune. And so the issue is there's nothing inherently wrong with the tune, but if everyone's kavana is all of a sudden going to be diverted to thinking about the pop artist in the song and having arguably illicit thoughts during Kabbalah Shabbos, so then that's accomplishing the opposite of it. It says in the Gemara that the Torah is chokeres sak, it wears sackcloth. It comes before a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It says, "Suni banecha ki akiner shemnang b'leitzim." They've turned me into like a lyre, into an instrument that clowns are using for entertainment purposes. There's a debate about whether it's just Shir Hashirim or whether it's the entire Torah, but that's something to keep in mind as well. But to finish our tshuva, here's the thing: all that we've been talking about is a heretic who produces music. Are we talking, though, about a heretic in the tshuva here? Yeah, that's very good. And in fact, we assume cheskas kashrus, a presumption of innocence. We assume most people are not heretics, right? But if somebody, let's say, gets up on a soapbox and they say, Rabbi Isai, they're going to probably start this way, I think that there are only 612 mitzvahs in the Torah. This 613th one, whichever one it is, insert whichever mitzvah I don't like, I think we should do away with it. And they get up on their soapbox and they make it abundantly clear. Then that's called a mumar. A mumar is a kind of heretic who says, I believe it's 612 mitzvahs, not 613 mitzvahs. Now, most people don't get up on their soapbox and do it, but some people do that. And as I like to say, there's a certain jargon in rabbinic parlance that says, "Ve'ein kam makom laharich," that will take us too far afield, unless someone pushes me on that. Actually, now I'll get in trouble. Okay. All right. So anyway, it's too early for me to make super controversial statements. Anyway, my friends, this will be like the blue. I remember always Versabilevsky, my first Rebbe at YU. So he would, whenever he would say, or stop the recordings, and he'd say something controversial, and he's like, I think the Chiddush of Rechaim doesn't. I don't really understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. And everyone thought it was like gonna be something like really juicy. That he was gonna like say something like very political, like you guys should support so and so, whatever. And I was like, oh, that's why we stopped the recordings. So anyway, but here we're not talking about a heretic. Here, Ramosha says he's doing something problematic, but it's not heresy. It's kalas rosh. It's frivolity. And even if he is just completely disregarding any violations around these matters of frivolity, worst case scenario, he's komomor l'teyavon rak l'davar echad. He's only a heretic, but not a heretic lahachis in principle, like the guy gets up on the soapbox and argues there's only 612 mitzvahs. There's a difference between a mumar lahachis versus a mumar l'teyavon, right? Like we say, everyone, teyavon, right? Enjoy your meal. Someone who just sins on the clock. There's a difference. The safe example that you could always use, I guess, is eating the cheeseburger, right? Because that's not a controversial one, I think. Right? So if I eat the cheeseburger because I believe Hashem doesn't have a right to tell me don't eat a cheeseburger, that's the mumar lahachis. But if I eat the cheeseburger because I know Hashem said I should eat the cheeseburger, but what could I do? It looked delicious, and I really like. Don't spend your Avera points at McDonald's. So word of advice. If you're gonna do like at least don't kill yourself in the process. Also, or there's a principle in Halacha called ein iser chal iser. that once you're in violation of one thing, maybe the other thing doesn't take effect. So we'll put that on the side. But anyway, at worst case scenario, he's just sinning not out of principle. He's sinning maybe out of lust, which is not a great thing either, but it doesn't make him a heretic, which should not invalidate his music on that basis. And then at the conclusion of the tshuva, Rav Moshe writes, Im kain kol shekin shemomer l'teyavon, when we're talking about someone who just a momer l'teyavon out of lust, but someone who actually subscribes. He believes the Torah is holy. He believes that God has a right to command mitzvos. Shekasher likrosbo. Such a person, he could write a Torah, he could read from the Torah, no issues. The kol shekin, certainly, Bavaryan Rakatover Ech l'teyavon. He's only doing one thing l'teyavon. The kosher sefer Torah sheichtov, a sefer Torah that he writes would be kosher, and if so, kol shekin, certainly. Any music he produces, it would be okay to play his songs. The ein lahachmer af libnei Torah ubali nefesh. This is noteworthy. Many times, where Moshe Feinstein will almost hedge his bets, if you will. He'll say that bali nefesh should be machmir. Those who are, I don't have a good translation, but like more conscientious, more halachically in tune. Those who want extra brownie points, however you want to put it. He says, even if you're the guy who likes to get extra Torah, extra religious brownie points, no reason to be machmer, no reason to be stringent over here in this matter. And if I am correct, that it is indeed the person who I believe it is, who this tshuva is about, I think like 50% of the tunes that we use nowadays were composed. It's like all these tunes I thought like went back to Har Sinai, and then actually, ooh, I was going to save this for the second share, but you know what? I'm going to share it with you now because it's too good. My friends, there's an English source on here. Take a look at the end of, it's the end of page 7, goes on to page 8. It's a book that you'll see one time here and you'll never see me cite it ever again, but it's strictly for academic purposes. The book is called Holy Brother, Inspiring Stories and Enchanted Tales about Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach by Gitta Halberstam Mandelbaum. Not one of my typical books that I go to, but I wanted to just point this out to contrast. Remember how we talked about how whether music has inherent kedusha or not? All right, so contrast it with the following account in this book. This is not an academic work, and you'll see in a moment. Can I get a volunteer who would like the aliyah today? Oh, I think Harry or
Either one.
okay. Well, wait, we got an aliyah last time. So you're going to aliyah this time. By the way, when we could get these aliyahs also, then I'm giving out over here. So you're welcome to volunteer. It's not kol isha. You're welcome to. Okay, go for it. Yes.
After Shlomo Carlebach gave a concert in Efrat, Israel, one night he was accosted by Rabbi Abraham Tversky, who bears the unusual distinction of being the only Hasidic psychiatrist in the world.
I guess at the time, it must be very old. This is there's many nowadays, right?
Shloimala, the psychiatrist, shook his finger accusingly at Rabbi Carlebach. These melodies you sing, you know they're not yours. Shlomo, who was known as the father of contemporary Jewish music and had in fact composed thousands of original Jewish songs during his lifetime, responded with a startled look. What do you mean they're not mine? Rabbi Tversky answered, during the period of the first and second temples, the Levium were known for the exquisite spiritual melodies they composed. They're said to be so moving and extraordinary that whoever heard them was elevated to a different realm. And after both temples were destroyed, the melodies vanished. It was all very mysterious. No one could retrieve them, and no one would remember them. They were hopelessly lost. Together with the Jewish nation, they had gone into exile, and no longer could the Jewish people uplift themselves spiritually through song.
Oh, there's one more paragraph. Get to the punchline.
So Shlomoya,
Shlomo.
whenever I hear your compositions, I cannot help but recognize the truth. These melodies are not yours; they belong to the Levium at the temple. God is bringing them back to the Jewish people through you. Your melodies are so spiritually rich and exalted. What other explanation could there possibly be?
Oh, Eileen loved this one. Oh, you see, it goes all the way back to the Beis Hamikdash. My favorite part actually was when he said Levium and then in parentheses it said high priest. that was already enough of an indication that I had some questions about this. But you see that's a motif. That's like a trope that you'll see. Like now, of course, it goes all the way back to Beis Hamikdash, or it goes all the way back to Har Sinai. I remember when I had a public speaking course at YU. So what they did is they had a public speaking coach, and then they paired it with like a young rabbi. And the young rabbi we got, he was like, I think he was like one of these like YU guys who grew up more modern Orthodox and then flipped out. And so like, then they get very sensitive about all these things. So I gave a practice sermon, and it was about basically distinguishing between things of inherent value versus things out of instrumental value. And I used Nigunim as an example. And he said, but what do you mean these Nigunim go all the way back to Har Sinai? And you don't believe it, then like, how can you become a rabbi? And I'm like, even if we don't passing like Mark Shapiro, the Yud Gimel Ikrim doesn't include that in there last time I checked. So I was, so that's, but people are very sensitive to that. Anyway, back to our featured presentation, my friends. This entire conversation presupposes that it is actually permissible in the first place to listen to music nowadays, which we always get our hair in a bundle about the 3 weeks and about Sphira and oh my gosh, or years of Avelis as well. But wait, isn't Klal Yisrael collectively in a period of mourning right now that started at the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, from destruction of the temple? Indeed, if you take a look at page 2 over here, so let's go back to page 2. I feel like, like I'm announcing, like, when they get to the Shir Shal Yom, and like, go back a few pages for Mourner's Kaddish on 344 or something, right? That's what I feel like. Okay, so flip back. So I put this in just for fun, just because I wanted to build up the Ramosha Feinstein multiverse. I'm quoting from Sefer Rivos Ephraim. Does anyone know who authored Rivos Ephraim? Pop quiz. Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt. He was a Talmud Muvhak of Ramosha Feinstein, wrote his own shuvos, very prolific. And then what's really fun is he quotes Rav Shimon Eider, who also wrote very handy practical halacha books. Who was also a Talmud Mufak of Ramosha Feinstein. And while in that discussion about the 3 weeks and listening to music, then he writes Ulashma Musika Kol Hashana, and regarding listening to music any time of the year, take a look at Igros Moshe, the first volume, Simon Kus Samech Vav, Mash Shekosab Zimra Kol Hashana. Wait, we didn't do that Shuva yet. I'm so glad you asked, because that's what we're going to look at in a moment. So we'll get in what we can in our final 10 minutes, my friends. We'll set the table, and that way we'll get we're going to get part 2 next week. So whatever we don't get now, Mir Hashem, we have much time together, my friends. And as you can see, this discussion, even if for some, it should not take us past the 3 weeks, but even if it did in theory, actually the next year after we do finish this is we're going to talk about deleting recordings of Shem Hashem, which is interesting. It'll be a nice flow to that next Shuva and implications for that. And, there's one of his most classic Shuvas at the beginning of the Igros Moshe. It brought in Rav Gifter, Rav Hutner, and all the Gedolei Roshei Yeshiva, was about this is a great ethical scenario. If someone is Rachmana litzlan is in a hospital, he's a leper, not leper, and he has a contagious disease. And the rule of the hospital is that anything that comes in is incinerated lest anyone is contagious, lest anyone get on the way out. So the question is, can you give him a pair of tefillin to use while he's in there, knowing that they're going to incinerate the tefillin before he comes out? So we'll talk about that next. I'm just enticing you for these are future topics we're going to talk about. Anyway, so we need to look at the Gemara. There's a Gemara all at the beginning of Maseches Gittin Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. There's a source number Gimel, which tells us at the end of the Gemara that not only when it comes to Zimra Demana does it come to instruments nowadays, but Avol de Puma, even when it comes to a puma, not to be confused with the cat, it means her mouth in Aramaic, even a cappella music would be forbidden nowadays. So you just send the Gemara and you're like, see, wait, you're telling me all those from programs, which have all those concerts they could go to, Yaakov Shweki and David Gabe and Simcha Leiner, and you gotta help me out. I only know a few of these. Insert who else? Journeys. Remember Journeys? That like after Journeys, everything went awry. Like at Journeys, that's actually music might not have kedusha, but if it does, that's kaddish kadashim. So Rashi. So there's a whole debate in the Rishonim. Every Rishon and his bubby has an opinion on how to interpret this Gemara. Rashi says, Where does the Isser of listening to music apply? The base hamishtos, only at the bar. So if you want to have a concert at the bar where everyone's drinking and there's alcoholic beverages, that's going to be an issue. But outside the bar, we want to have our classic rock. By the way, we have to put this together. We have a number of individuals in the shul who I know are talented in music. So post 3 weeks, I wanted to do a classic rock night at the shul, right? I'll have a nice Dvar Torah at the beginning, right? Put this on the radar, Barry. Write this one down, okay? Or Eileen, I know this is not or at the board meeting, we'll bring it up. You'll put it on the minutes. We already have a few people who can do it. It'll be great. So as long as no alcohol is served, it might be okay, according to Rashi. Tosfos would seem to concur as well. If you look at the next source in Talmud Bavli, it tells us in the Mishnah. Sorry, not Talmud Bavli, Mishnais. Misha Botla Sanhedrin. When the great rabbinical court was dissolved, Batal Hashir Mi Beitz Hamishtos. It's one way to interpret it is that after destruction, because basically the Sanhedrin, this is not going to sound so PC. So this is a turn off the recorder moment. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to leave out the good stuff. So you know how they have back in Iran, they have the front police. What do they call it? They have the religious police over there. So we don't like to promote this and all the pro-Israel stuff, whatever. But I mean, back in the good old days, right? We used to have the Sanhedrin. They would have shoftim v'shotrim. There were shotrim who would actually go around and make sure that during the Yom Tovim, when everybody was coming up to the Beis Hamikdash, that there wasn't too much interaction between the men and the women, that there wouldn't be frivolity that was occurring. I always thought. So in my previous shul, they would always like to go on these missions. Like we're going to go on a mission to Israel. We're going to go on a mission to Italy. We're going to go on a mission to Aruba. Any Stanford people here on there tonight? Okay, no. So okay, good. Maybe they'll listen to a recording of it. I always thought it was a great idea. If I want to go on a trip, you call it a mission, then I could go on a mission to Hawaii or something. Anyone want to bring? Okay, it'll be great. That's how you frame it. So I always thought I want to do an educational mission. So it used to be when we go on not vacation, when we go on school trips. And the Rebbeim would have to chaperone. So we get to the farm, and then they'd be milking a cow over there, and you're like, oh, Rabbi, say it's beautiful. The malacha of schita comes to life. We can see all the malachos of shot. Like that was me when I came into the loom room over here. I got to see it b'chvaydi v'atzmo and its glory today being used to make a talis, and I was like, oh my gosh, the 39 malachos of Shabbos are coming to life, gewaldig. So I always thought as a mission, imagine. Cut off the recording here. Imagine we all went to Afghanistan. We could say, Rabbosai, amazing. Sanhedrin and Makkahs come to life. We could see the 4 death penalties. Arba Mitzvahs Basin. We could see Malchus lashes being done. Wow, gewaldig. So I say this very tongue-in-cheek. But anyway, how did I get there? I have no clue. But oh yeah, the police. Right. So after the Sanhedrin was dissolved, they couldn't regulate it anymore. So no more music at the bars because it would lead to bad things. We'll do a little bit outside right now, which is yeshivish speak for meaning off the paper. I realize when I say outside, people think I mean literally outside. It's like a carryover. There's basically 4. I made a little chart over here for those who want to look at it. I don't often do it, but I needed it for myself just to wrap my head around the sugya on page 4. There's basically 4 permutations over here. Like there's a question about whether it's a cappella versus with instrumental accompaniment. And then there's a question about whether it is in a regular context versus a alcoholic beverage party context. And depending which square you're in, different Rishonim think different things. So Rashi and Tosos are of the opinion that it's only when it comes to being in a frivolous environment that having music is problematic. But if not, then you're good to go. Rambam in his Mishnah Torah takes it a step further. He says that instrumental music is usher any time, any context, but then in its chuvos. And that's an interesting thing. We'll get to this when we get to the Mechitza Sugya, because that's another great example where Rambam writes one thing in his Mishnah Torah, his halachic magnum opus. I get modern Orthodox credit for using the word magnum opus. As my Rabbi J.J. Schachter always likes to say, L'kayim mashenemar Torah Ramada. It's to fulfill that which it says, not in the Torah, but in YU it says Torah Ramada. You always have to mix Torah with secular knowledge. So there you go. Good perfunctory check off my list. And then finally, everyone would agree that if it's instrumental and you are in a bar, it would be an issue. But Rambam is Shuvas right that all music, any place, anytime, with the sole exception of religious function, is forbidden nowadays. And I put over here on page 4, I decided to enumerate it just to make it kind of easy, again, for myself at least, to follow it. Now, the Rambam wrote his Chuvos in Judeo-Arabic, most of them, to my knowledge. So this is a translation, but it gives the essential point. My Judeo-Arabic's a little bit fuzzy. Maybe any Sfardim among us who could... we'll have to bring. I see Joe's with us, so we'll bring in for the Judeo-Arabic next time. You can translate for us, right? So he gives us 5 potential issues that could come up. Number 1, Isser Shmias Davar Tipshus Nivlas Hapen. Number 1, if the content's problematic, if the content is illicit, that's Isser number 1, right? It's like how many, there's like that Mishnah in Makos, which talks about how many violations of the Torah can I rack up in one go. So it's like if I'm wearing shatnez while plowing through a Beis HaKvaros and I'm a Kohen and it's Shabbos and it's Yontif and it's like ding, 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 ding. It's like I remember as like a kid, it's like you dig a hole deeper. Like I must have been like in 2nd grade disrespectful to the Rebbe. So then he like gave me a bad mark for the day. And then I argued with him. So he gave me like a worse mark and I kept going worse and worse, like taking the hole deeper and deeper. So Isser Shmiya Shira Ritzono or Zimra Bepuma. So then singing with one's mouth, that's number 2. And if it's instrumental accompaniment, that's another violation. And if there's wine, that's another one. And he added this one, this wasn't in the others. If there's Kol Be'isha Erva, if there's women singing as well, so then you get a whopping total of 5 potential issues that could be violated in one go. What does the Rambam have against music? I mean, maybe a litvak, So what does he say? So not enough time to explain very briefly because this will be referenced many times. So in general, the general machlokus was back in the Altaheim. The Chasim are usually more pro the spiritual experience than the music. The Litvaks, Lithuanian, Rosh Yeshiva are known to be very much against all that stuff. It's all shtuz, just sit and learn Torah all day and that's it. So, I could tell over a joke right now, but I don't know. All right, with that background, if this flops, just forgive me and just indulge me. But this is a joke that I really. I'm not a Rabbi Moshe Weinberger guy. I don't know if you figure that out. It's like the whole Neo Hasidus movement in the YU world. It was really funny actually because I grew up in the Yeshiva Shavelt. So when I read Rabbi Norman Lamb's Torah Umada, and I talked about the importance of like academia and to help understand Torah, I was like really taken by it. And then by Hayom, I get to YU and I expect everyone. First of all, I thought it was going to be like rolling green hills on YU's campus, and then I get to Washington Heights. And then I thought everyone would be sitting under the tree, reading Lonely Man of Faith and Halachic Man. It would be like so amazing. And then I get there, and all of a sudden, there's like this whole movement about anti-intellectualism, and maybe that's a little harsh, but kind of just like all the experiential. So wow, why did I bring? So here's the joke that he says. The joke he says as follows. So there's a litvak, a Breslover chassid, and a Lubavitcher chassid. They all go to Gehenna. They all go to hell. So that's not the punchline. That's not the punchline. You already laughed. Like you guys are great. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe comes down and says to the Lubavitcher chassid, "Okay, you did your chitas and you had something on tefillin. All right." He takes him out of Gehenna and brings him to Gan Eden. Beautiful. Goes home haba. Then the Breslover Rebbe comes in. Rabbi Nachman comes in and says, I'm not sure what he asked him, but you have nice payas, grabs him, pulls him out, takes him out of Gehenna. Then the Litvaks Rosh Yeshiva comes into Gehenna, takes one look indignantly at him and says, "You see, I told you so." So okay. So that's you got it. If not, then thank you for indulging me on that one. But anyway, the Rambam, just to show how the Rambam was the consummate litvak, if you will, he says, the only thing we should occupy ourselves with is becoming a wholesome Jewish person. And what does that mean? We shouldn't be awakening forces that will draw us away from the goodness. There's no time for frivolity. There's no time for fun. There's no time for party. partying. Just sit down, learn Torah, and eventually get to metaphysics as well. That's what the Rambam would be saying. And how does Rav Moshe Feinstein paskin? He says, ideally, we should be following the Rambam. But we'll leave more of that nuance for next time. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll get hopefully to the Halacha L'maisa and to some other interesting tidbits as well in part 2, which God willing will be next week. Let me just, because many of you overlap with the Medrash Rabbah here, I'm going to send an email. There's a good chance, Baruch Hashem, we have very close friends. They had a baby boy. The bris is supposed to be Wednesday morning in Stanford. They asked me to do the Kriyas Shem to come in to name him, so I think I have to go once I'm being asked for that. So it's Wednesday morning. I will probably not be able to make it back, so I think I'll push it off to Thursday. Sandy, is it okay if we did Thursday 12 o'clock for the all the same bagels and everything anyway, right? Oh, okay. So look out for the email. If that right now it's still Wednesday, but if I send out that email that's Thursday, then it will be Thursday. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm wishing you all a wonderful evening. Take care.